Hey everyone, this is Andrew Kissen, Director of Marketing with Zahn Dental. We're here with Milos Markovic, CDT at Aurora Digital Technology Center. Milos, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Milos, you've been in the dental lab space for the better part of your career here in the US. What have you seen, or what are you seeing with digital technology trends and just where the market is really going?
Well, a lot has changed, obviously. I've worked in the field for about 14 years. I was here when the zirconia initially started as a material to become mainstream, and the first batch of milling units started to get out there, and it was kind of like a wild west. So we had a good 14 years to kind of settle things down. What I've seen is a lot of a trend in sort of like digital dentures and what I like to call a third generation zirconia really taking off, and a lot of growth in clear aligners and services for designs. So just to elaborate more, for instance, initially when we had very basic zirconia, then we switched over to multi-layer zirconia, but then that one had a lot of drawbacks with aesthetics, with the strength, because there were like very definitive demarcation lines between layers. It was very complicated to nest it in the disc. And now we have what I like to call a third generation zirconia, with like different manufacturers coming out with their own versions that has that 1200 megapascal strength and nearly 50% translucency, sort of like making zirconia, one type of zirconia, the ultimate material for any indication. What we see that we usually, ranging from full arch hybrids all the way down to single restorations. So now there's been, a lot of demand to kind of simplify and streamline zirconia production, so you don't have to have such a variety of different zirconia discs, such a wide variety. And that's one trend in zirconia. The second thing that I mentioned was the digital dentures. Even though we see growth in digital dentures in a slightly different way. So there's two types of customers that we get at Aurora. It's customers who already have their designs and they just need somebody to produce their digital dentures. And the other type of customer is your traditional denture lab that's really trying to jump into that space and streamline their production as well. There's a huge shortage of denture technicians, especially now with the transition of the generations. We're going to have a lot of industry veterans retiring in the next 5 to 10 years, which is creating a huge vacuum of talent. And so we see a lot of demand for digital denture design and sort of case planning. A lot of lab owners are asking us, how do I get started? What's required of me? How many appointments can I cut this down to? If I'm already doing 5 appointments, if I'm now have to do it in 3 appointments, what are the steps in between? What do I need from my dentist? Unfortunately, with dentures, is a lot of the traditional steps are still there. Things such as functional impression, custom tray, your bite rim with your midline, horizontal plane, bipupillary line, high lip line, everything marked. And what's really changed is that last step of the production. That's really where the technology shines, with no need for wax ups, with expensive setups that you need to go back and forth. Production has simplified much in terms of there's no boil out, there's no flasking. The material is really strong. And to give you an example, Lucitone 199 material that we use with print with our carbon printers has been extremely strong and extremely successful. And so lab owners are seeing a lot of value in that.
Speaking about digital dentures, why do you think now seems to be, or the last year or so, seems to really be all the rage, all the buzz about converting workflows? Is it because the technology's gotten better, or because of the reduction of removable technicians? From a
So I think
lab
it's
point of view,
yeah.
what do you see?
So I think it's a combination of both, actually. I think it's the shortage of technicians. So labs are kind of forced into choosing or finding different services that will continue the production of removables. But on the other hand, if the material has been proven. We've had a few years to test out the Lucitone-based material, and it's one of the few materials that can be relined So it really gives, and as a 3D printed material, that was one of the biggest challenges. So I think we've had a few years to test it. And also when it comes to fit, we've gotten nearly 100% positive feedback when it comes to fit coming from digital dentures. That's something that traditional dentures just were not able to achieve with very few adjustments. I remember when we were doing dentures, and my dad, who's a dentist as well, just after delivering the final denture, he would probably have to see the patient 2 or 3 more times afterwards just to do additional modification. With digital dentures, we barely see an appointment afterwards to modify that fit. So I think it was a lot of skepticism at first to see the quality and the longevity of the product. And I think it also made a lot of financial sense for a lot of technicians, because they really were able to see now that they're producing digitally, how much cost is that cutting for them. So I think, like you say, it's a combination of all those things. But personally, I really think the main driver is the labor availability, and that's what I see. That's what I see with us as a manufacturer. We constantly need to, look for talent and hire someone. I see with our competitors, and it really drives a lot of, decision making of, okay, well, how can we make a material that uses less people and more technology, because we really can't find enough technicians. So we see a lot of that. And then the third subject that I mentioned, one of the main reasons that that's kind of like we're seeing a lot of growth right now is in services. Going back again to labor availability, there's so many options now with the digital design services that labs virtually don't even have to hire designers on staff. They can sort of kind of have their own cell of designers working off site. It's basically like having your designers that are working from home, and that you can customize your preferences, your requirements, your quality to your desires, and then kind of have them work off site. And by partnering yourself with a big design service, you're opening up all these products that you weren't able to offer before, right? So there's clear aligners that requires a lot of ortho knowledge. So it's really hard to find ortho techs. We said, removable dentures. Then we have partial dentures, the flexible RPDs. And then you have other things that if you were a removables lab, you might want to do some crown and bridge work. So now you have access to skilled technicians who have a lot of implant knowledge or a lot of crown and bridge knowledge. And what we've seen also is one of the biggest trends is there's a huge overlap of specialties right now. I'm certified in crown and bridge, but I probably spend a good part of the last year just doing removables and learning about removables more. And when we go to Chicago to, let's say, midwinter meeting, we see all the denture technicians taking crown and bridge and implant courses. So it's a really interesting overlap that I think we're all just going to merge into one specialty called dental technology, and that's going to be the end of it. Because really what you need today, the way labs are structured today, you really only have a design department and manufacturing department. That's really the way things are going. And so your design department will do all the designs, right, for all different restorations, and your manufacturing is going to be divided into milling and 3D printing. And that's really where everything's going. And even though we try different alternatives, maybe to go back to analog way to do certain things the analog way, we really don't see much benefit. We see a lot more benefit in sticking with newer materials and newer protocols. And it's the hurdle is training everyone on the new protocol, on the new material, just like with every generational shift, right? The problem in the industry is the PFM crown has been around for a very long time. So just when we were transitioning from PFM to Emax or zirconia, there was a huge uproar. Oh, this material will never be as good, and so on and so forth. And then Emax became a staple. And then from Emax, we moved to more advanced zirconia. So it's a more of a learning curve. Each material behaves differently, has different requirements that have to be followed. And I believe we have a chance now, especially with the generational shift. There's a lot of new dentists coming into the field. So they will have access to be trained on all the new technology. So I think we won't have a big of a problem in accepting the new tech. It's going to be more about perfecting it and making the workflow better.
Well, Milos, I feel like you hit the nail on the head with the dental technology. I mean, that's what's revolutionizing both the clinical and the dental lab side is, you having all of these advancements in the materials to the technology to the services, that it's creating this ecosystem and this platform that everyone is able to either try new indications, try new services, and they need labs to be able to rely on. And it
Yep.
seems like the trend is, hey, how do I transition part of my analog lab to a digital lab to
Mhm.
really be able to be that partner that a doctor or a dental practice can
Yeah.
rely on?
A good example is surgical guides, for example. Um, Technician, maybe the old school technician, there was not a high requirement, high knowledge requirement of a dental technician back in the day. You kind of stuck to your own specialty. It's very hard to find a technician today that kind of only sticks to his own specialty. You have to know a lot. I spent a good part of maybe last year and the year before just learning the clinical side, really in depth, talking about mandibular nerves, bone density, sinus cavities, bone reduction, um, bone resorption, all these things that are now used in implant planning. So the dental technician has really become that main resource for both the surgeon and the clinician and the restorative dentist to kind of bring all these pieces together and make them work. So it's a dental technician of tomorrow. My hope is that it's going to be encompassing all this knowledge to which it's good for the field. It's good for us to have such technically advanced people, but again, also creates scarcity in not having enough technicians to do all the work.
Milos, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, and really look forward to see what comes out of you and Aurora and the dental lab space as digital and dental technology continues to evolve.
Absolutely, it was my pleasure. I will see you soon.
All right, thanks.